Woodstock, Ontario, Canada. April 8, 2009. A Wednesday like any other. Victoria Elizabeth Marie Stafford, known affectionately as Tori, a girl of just 8 years old, left Oliver Stevens Public School a few minutes after her classmates. She had forgotten her bird rings in the classroom and went back to get them. Security cameras captured the last image of her alive, walking hand in hand with an unknown woman dressed in white. Tori would never return home. In the following hours, this small girl with bright eyes and light hair would be subjected to one of the most brutal crimes in Canada's recent history. A crime that would involve drugs, sexual violence, beating, and a meticulously planned murder. Tori's body would only be found more than 100 days later, hidden under rocks, wrapped in garbage bags, more than 100 kilometers from her home. Before continuing with this devastating story, I want to thank the subscriber who suggested this case. If you are not yet part of our community, consider subscribing now, and you can also suggest cases in the comments. Victoria Elizabeth Marie Stafford was born on July 15, 2000 in Woodstock, Ontario, a city of approximately 40,000 inhabitants known as the milk capital of Canada. The daughter of Rodney Stafford and Tara McDonald, Tori had an older brother named Darren. Her parents divorced when she was only 2 years old, and the children lived primarily with their mother, also counting on support from grandparents and other relatives. Tori was described as a girl full of life, a little firecracker, according to her grandmother. She didn't mind getting dirty, loved animals, and had a striking personality. Her room was decorated with Disney princesses, Bratz dolls, and Hannah Montana posters, her favorite show. Her favorite color was yellow, and she loved Halloween because she could dress up. She was known for her friendly and confident nature, characteristics that, tragically, would make her an ideal target for her executioners. She attended Oliver Stevens Public School and went to church on Sundays, accompanied by her grandmother. A week before her disappearance, Tara McDonald had moved to a new house on Francis Street, just a block away from the children's school. On Wednesday, April 8, 2009, Tori and her brother Darren walked together to school in the morning. Normally, they would return together as well, but that day, Darren needed to take other children home first. Around 3:30 in the afternoon, when classes ended, Tori and her classmates lined up at the southeast door of the school, preparing to leave. She remembered having left her bird rings in the classroom and went back to get them. According to her teacher, Tori ended up leaving the school about 5 minutes after the other students. When Darren returned to the school and didn't find his sister, he assumed she had walked home alone. Upon arriving home at 3:45, he discovered that Tori wasn't there. Worried, he took his bicycle and went out looking for her, but couldn't find her anywhere. A friend of Tori's called the house and left a message about plans they had for that night. At 4:30, with Tori still absent, her mother, Tara, began searching for her on foot. Darren had already gone to a relative's house, and at 5 o'clock, Tara called him to say that Tori still hadn't returned. She also called some of Tori's friends, but no one knew where the girl was. At 5:20, Tara called her own mother, Linda, to tell her that Tori was missing. Linda immediately went to pick up Tara, and together they began to search for the girl. They saw a police car near the school and stopped to report what had happened. The officers invited them to go to the police station, where Linda officially reported the disappearance. Tori was officially reported missing at 6:04, and within an hour, the Oxford Community Police Service began the search. Tori's father, Rodney, was informed at 6:25 that his daughter was missing. That night, the police meticulously examined the area around the school. Rodney called other relatives, but no one had seen Tori. He also allowed his own apartment to be searched so he could be ruled out as a suspect. On Thursday, hundreds of volunteers and about 40 police officers, including K9 units, participated in the search of the area where Tori was last seen. Police officers from London, Ontario, and the Waterloo region also joined the efforts. At that moment, the police reported having no reason to suspect a crime, so they did not issue an Amber Alert, which angered many in the community. Officer Lorianne Maitland explained that when the missing person report arrived, the details did not meet the criteria for an Amber Alert. There was no confirmation of kidnapping, nor information indicating serious bodily injury or death. Descriptive information about the child and the kidnapper was needed, as well as any vehicle involved. She emphasized that, although the case did not qualify for an Amber Alert, That did not mean the searches were being conducted with less seriousness. The searches expanded to the Pittock Conservation Area, north of Woodstock, a place that Tori had visited the previous weekend to skip stones with her brother. Friends and neighbors, many of whom had never known Tori, scoured the town of Woodstock, looking in gardens and distributing posters with Tori's photo and description. The girl was described as being 1 meter and 37 centimeters tall and weighing 27 kilograms. The last time she was seen, she was wearing a green t-shirt, black jeans, white sneakers, and a black Hannah Montana jacket with a fur hood, and possibly carrying a red bag. Tori's mother appeared on television asking for help, and the parents offered a reward of $10,000. Rodney's grandmother, Doreen, created an event on Facebook to promote the searches, which gained almost 10,000 participants in just a few days. The police examined security footage in the area and finally found an important clue. An image showed Tori accompanied by a woman at 332, walking hand in hand toward the north on Fife Avenue. They walked together to the parking lot of the Crescent Care retirement home. The police put out a call for the unknown woman to come forward, hoping she would have information about what happened to Tori. The woman was described as white, between 19 and 25 years old, approximately 1 meter and 57 centimeters tall and 57 kilograms, with black hair, wearing a white shirt and black jeans. On Sunday, Tori's family released red heart-shaped balloons in the city center as a public demonstration of support. A candlelight vigil was held for Tori at 8 o'clock in Woodstock, attended by hundreds of people. Tori's mother, Tara, spoke to the public, saying, "No one can begin to imagine what our family is going through. I know in my heart that she is well, and that we will find her. It's just a matter of time." Tori had been missing for 4 days. A large search had been conducted, and the police had received more than 260 tips, but there was still no sign of the girl. Tori's father said that the surveillance images gave him some relief, since Tori did not appear to be struggling in the video. He also mentioned that he didn't think the woman in the video was a family member, and that no one had any idea who she was. As the days passed without news of Tori, rumors began to emerge around the town, and everyone had different theories about the disappearance. One of the first targets of suspicion was Tori's own mother, Tara McDonald, 33 years old. At the time of Tori's disappearance, Tara was unemployed, addicted to OxyContin, and had connections to drugs through her boyfriend, James Goris. She eventually confessed to the police that she was under the influence of drugs during the period when Tori disappeared. The police also questioned why Tara took so long to report Tori's disappearance to the authorities. She said she thought Tori was just lost and didn't want to alarm anyone. Still, her behavior seemed strange to the police, and they interviewed her 5 different times, including once when she vomited during a polygraph test. She continued to deny any involvement in her daughter's disappearance. But during the lie detector test, she suggested that perhaps the case was related to a failed drug transaction. Tara's boyfriend, James, had defrauded a local dealer of $600, giving him only $11 in cash, along with a bag of cards and an envelope, in exchange for 40 pills. Despite what she confessed to the police, when she spoke to the press, Tara denied having used any drugs since college. She also publicly denied rumors that Tori had been kidnapped to pay off a drug debt of $33,000. Additionally, Tori's grandmother Linda reported that Tara had specifically asked her not to worry about picking up Tori on the day of her disappearance. Tara claimed that this change of plan occurred because she no longer trusted her own mother. She even suggested that Linda might be involved in Tori's kidnapping in some way. For their part, Linda and another friend told investigators that it was Tara who appeared in the security video with Tori. This led the police to seize all of Tara's white shirts and blouses as potential evidence. At the same time that the police considered her a potential suspect, Tara quickly became the public face of the entire investigation into her daughter's disappearance. Each day that Tori remained missing, Tara left the house dressed and prepared for a daily press conference, where she asked for her daughter's return and called her Princess Chub Chubs. However, she never openly cried during these press conferences, which some of her closest friends found strange. One friend even said that Tara invited her to a pajama party the day after Tori's disappearance. The woman told the police, "Because Tara is always very expressive and emotional, I would expect that something like the disappearance of Tara's daughter, Tori, would kill her. Instead, Tara is laughing and not showing anything." The police even conducted 2 undercover operations involving Tara, with 2 male officers becoming friends with her to see if she would trust them, but she never did. The police received hundreds of tips about Tori's disappearance, and one of these tips came from Tara herself. Apparently, some people she knew said that the woman in the security video looked like a friend of hers, the 18-year-old Terri-Lynne McClintic. Tara admitted to the police that she had visited Terri-Lynne's house twice before, once to buy OxyContin from Terri-Lynne's mother, and another time to talk about the possibility of taking care of her dogs. These meetings occurred a few months earlier, in January and February 2009. The police arrested Terri-Lynne for an unrelated assault on a minor and kept her in custody. She denied being the woman in the video. On April 15th, Tori's story was featured on the America's Most Wanted website, which attracted international attention to the case. At that point, almost 1,000 tips had reached the police, and both parents revealed to the press that they had taken lie detector tests to be ruled out as suspects. Several members of Tori's extended family participated in a fundraising event with a car wash and barbecue, which raised money for a trust fund for Tori and her brother Darren. The organizers said the money would be used to help pay for the counseling that Tori and Darren would need when she returned. Tori's case was officially classified as a kidnapping, not just a missing person case. Detective William Renton announced the change when the Ontario Provincial Police took control of the investigation on April 17th. The police released a sketch of the woman seen in the surveillance image. Tori's father, Rodney, said he recognized the woman in the drawing but didn't know who she was, while Tara said she didn't recognize her at all. On May 4, 2009, the police released more surveillance images showing a dark car parked in the area at the time of Tori's disappearance. Tori's mother, Tara, and her father, Rodney, continued to hold almost daily press conferences in front of Tara's house. On May 11th, Tara didn't show up, leaving Rodney alone in front of the cameras. She sent a text message saying she couldn't do this. Later, she said she simply didn't have the strength to appear. A few days later, Tara read a letter she had written to her daughter, which said, "I know, dear, that no matter where you are, no matter how far, that you feel my love, my suffering, my strength. And above all, you feel how sick my heart is without you. Stay strong, princess, and don't doubt for a second that we are coming for you, and you will be safe again." On May 12th, Terri-Lynne was interviewed again by the police, while she was in a detention center on an unrelated charge. This time, she told about her movements on April 8th, which included visiting an employment center, walking down the street of Tori's school, but not near it, and then going to pick up an OxyContin prescription. 3 days after this interview, Terri-Lynne agreed to make a formal statement to the police. On the same day, the police also interviewed a second suspect, Terri-Lynne's boyfriend, Michael Rafferty, 28 years old. Michael denied being in a relationship with her, saying they were just friends. He also denied having any information about Tori's disappearance, beyond what he had learned from the news. Meanwhile, Tori's parents were protagonists in an argument at their press conference on May 15th. Rodney accused Tara of showing a lack of emotion about Tori's disappearance, while she said he was able to cry in front of the cameras because he felt guilty about being an absent father. Tara continued to share details about her past drug addiction, saying she used OxyContin 2 or 3 times a week, but had started attending a methadone clinic 2 years earlier because she wanted to regain control of her life. She reiterated that the news linking her daughter's kidnapping to a drug debt was completely unfounded. On May 18th, a march was held in Woodstock to honor Tori on a day dubbed Victory Day. Friends and family marched to show support for the missing girl. Terri-Lynne underwent a polygraph test on May 19th at the Woodstock police. During the test, she confessed to being the woman in the surveillance video. She also confessed to investigators that she helped kidnap Tori and that her boyfriend, Michael, raped her and then killed her. Terri-Lynne was then informed that she would be arrested for kidnapping and complicity in homicide. Her boyfriend, Michael, was arrested later that night but continued to deny any involvement in Tori's disappearance. They made their first court appearance on May 20th, and both were charged with kidnapping. Michael was also charged with first-degree murder, and Terri-Lynne was charged with aiding and abetting Michael's crime. In a discreet communication, the police began asking the public for help in locating the backseat cover of Michael's Honda Civic, which was missing from the car and was considered a potential crime scene. Michael Thomas Christopher Stephen Rafferty, 28 years old, grew up in the Toronto area. Not much is known about his childhood, but during high school, he was sent to live with a grandmother and an uncle in the countryside. In his 20s, he lived in Guelph, Ontario, working for a meat processing factory and for a landscaping company. Michael was using drugs heavily in 2009. After his arrest, he told an undercover officer that he was taking 5 tablets of 80 milligrams of OxyContin, or between 11 and 12 tablets of 40 milligrams of medications per day. If he had Percocet, he said he would take between 20 and 30 tablets per day. Much more is known about Terri-Lynne's life, because the authorities were involved with her from a very young age. She was born in 1990 in the city of Woodstock. Her mother was a stripper who handed Terri-Lynne over to a friend and also stripper named Carol McClintic. Carol essentially became Terri-Lynne's mother. The two moved constantly throughout Ontario, with Terri-Lynne still a child. According to Carol, Terri-Lynne was abused by someone when she was about 4 or 5 years old, which Carol stopped as soon as she discovered. Her frequent moves meant she had to change schools constantly. Terri-Lynne was bullied because her mother was a stripper, and her attention in school was scattered. When she was about 7 years old, Child Protection began to show interest in her. At 8 years old, she began using drugs, starting with marijuana and then moving on to heavier substances. As a child, she put a dog in a microwave and turned it on, leaving it there until it screamed. At the time, she attributed the animal's injuries to a fight with another dog, but later confessed this story to her grandmother, one of the only positive figures in her life. Around 10 years old, she had problems with the police for the first time when she stole some toys from a store. At 11 years old, she reported that Carol had physically and verbally abused her for the past 2 years. The following year, Carol was seen publicly drunk chasing Terri-Lynne down the street. Terri-Lynne ended up being placed in 2 foster homes, and still a child, was in detention homes. She was in and out of juvenile detention centers several times for fights, and was convicted of assault at least 6 times, including an attack with a weapon. While in the detention centers, Terri-Lynne worked to create a gangster image for herself, forcing other detainees to give her medications and writing increasingly disturbing letters about torture fantasies. She wrote letters and diary entries in which she threatened those who had harmed her, boasting about assaulting someone and pulling out every hair. In 2006, when Terri-Lynne was 16 years old, she had a fight with Carol after being asked to leave home. She hurt Carol so severely that she nearly went blind in one eye. Despite this, the two moved to a dilapidated house in Woodstock in 2008. Terri-Lynne had no friends in the area, but she knew the drug dealers in the town. She regularly abused OxyContin, took antidepressants, used ecstasy, and smoked marijuana. Terri-Lynne and Michael met in February 2009. They talked while waiting for a pizza at the New Orleans pizza shop in Woodstock. He called her hot and offered a ride home. They sat and talked in his car for a while. Then, instead of going into the house, she went to a motel with him. They talked about OxyContin and then ended up being intimate in the car. According to Terri-Lynne, during this encounter, he got on top of her and began to strangle her. After the act, she returned home with a cold pizza and Michael's number written on the box. She didn't even know his name. In the following months, Michael would appear at her house regularly, and she would give him drugs. They also went to movies together, sometimes being physically intimate in the theater or spending the night in a hotel. According to Terri-Lynne, she was in love. She remembered he always said the right things. Unlike many men who were part of my life, it felt good. Eventually, it was discovered that Terri-Lynne was not the first woman Michael had strangled during intimacy. 12 other women came forward and reported that he had strangled them. Some consented, others did not. One even signed a note consenting to be strangled until unconscious. Another reported being drugged, strangled, and then raped. Some of the women with whom he later had relationships testified that he demonstrated disturbing behavior toward children. In the months leading up to Tori's kidnapping, Michael was involved with one woman after another. He lived with a woman for a few months, and they shared a computer. The records on the computer showed that she searched for things like veterinary school or movies to download, while his profile was used to view large amounts of child pornography. After they separated, computer records showed that he searched for massage parlors and escort sites. He also used social networks and dating sites, creating profile after profile where he presented himself as a good guy who valued friendship above all. He dated several women at the same time, including a woman who believed they were exclusive. She began to help him financially by working as an escort and then giving him the money she earned. He took more than $16,000 in about 6 months and apparently used that money to take other women on dates and buy new clothes for them and himself. Michael's computer records also revealed that he searched for things like necrophilia and pornography that featured urination and erotic asphyxiation. Investigators also discovered that he viewed or downloaded a significant amount of child pornography, and most of the file names suggested a focus on girls. Searches for things like real-age girl test photos and nude preteens were added to his computer in the weeks after Tori's kidnapping. Terri-Lynne said there were things about Michael that she chose to ignore because she was happy to have found a good man, but she also admitted that he didn't hide his proclivities. She said they would drive by schools, and he would talk about how easy it would be to kidnap a child. He would stop in front of houses and describe the layout to her, saying he knew many single mothers and that it would be so easy to lure someone and take them away. With Terri-Lynne's confession, the police now knew with certainty that the search had gone from a missing person case to a recovery mission to find Tori's remains. On June 6, 2009, a memorial was held for Tori at the church in Woodstock. About 800 people gathered to remember the little girl. Mother Tara told the public that she would give her own life just to hear the sweet-voiced girl again. She said that Tori had an incredible personality, full of love, happiness, and a passion for life that I've never seen, and that I doubt I'll see again. Her positive attitude simply illuminated anyone around her and was contagious to anyone who knew her. Tori's father, several of her grandmothers, and her 11-year-old brother also spoke, remembering their little princess, as they called her. The brother began to cry briefly after starting to speak, so Tara went up to read his comment for him, which said, "I remember seeing you every night. I remember putting you to bed until we had to go to school. I remember hugging you. I remember playing with you. I remember kissing you goodnight. I remember walking to school with you. I remember arguing with you. And finally, I remember holding you. All I can do is think about you and think that I am your brother, which means I should protect you, but I guess I couldn't." After her initial confession on May 19, 2009, Terri-Lynne was kept at the police station for the following days while she helped investigators locate where they could find Tori's body. This included taking Terri-Lynne in a car to try to retrace her and Michael's actions on April 8th, and even taking her in a helicopter to try to locate the crime scene. She directed them to an area of Highway 6 and Side Road 6 near the city of Guelph, Ontario. She also drew some rudimentary but detailed maps to guide them to the exact location where Tori was killed. She remembered details like the location being near a property with a dirt road and that it was close to a bungalow-style house positioned at an odd angle to the road. She also described that there was a broken fence, a blanket, 2 types of trees, a curve in a path, and a large piece of rock. After weeks of searching the area on foot and by helicopter, the investigators finally succeeded. On July 19th, Sergeant Detective Jim Smith of the Ontario Provincial Police was scouring a field near the town of Mount Forest. He had discovered that Michael's cell phone had registered a signal in that region on the night Tori was killed, so he decided to check the area. The location of the cell phone signal was about 2 hours north of London, Ontario, in an isolated place south of Mount Forest, much farther north of Guelph than the investigators had previously searched. While there, he saw a house almost identical to the one described by Terri-Lynne, so he followed a dirt path. Finally, he found a rock formation like the one Terri-Lynne had described. It was at that moment that he noticed the unmistakable smell of human decomposition. Upon removing a stone from the mound, he saw garbage bags and immediately knew he had found Tori. He quickly left the area to preserve the crime scene. The Stafford Homicide Investigation Team, assisted by the OPP Forensic Identification Unit, soon converged to protect the scene and recover the body wrapped in garbage bags. Tori's body was taken to Toronto the next day for autopsy and identification. Dental records were used to confirm her identity, and preliminary examinations indicated that she died from blunt force trauma to the head. Dr. Michael Polinen, the chief forensic pathologist of Ontario, performed the autopsy. Tori's body had been found wearing only the Hannah Montana shirt and the bird rings she had retrieved from school. The lower part of the body was severely decomposed, which made it impossible for Dr. Polinen to determine with certainty whether she had been sexually abused despite Terri-Lynne's testimony strongly suggesting so. The autopsy revealed that 16 of her 24 ribs were fractured, indicating that Tora's thorax had suffered violent force, possibly from stomping or beating. The examination of her jeans showed evidence of damage from blood, which must have occurred while Tori was still alive and not from the rocks that were later placed on her body. The bleeding and internal damage likely contributed to Tora's death, according to Dr. Polinen. However, she also had at least 4 blows to the head, which penetrated the skull and reached the spinal cord, these being the definitive cause of death. Tora's remains were returned to her family, who planned a private funeral to honor the memory of their little daughter. Terri-Lynne initially confessed to the police on May 19th that she had helped kidnap Tori and that Michael had been the only one to kill her. But on May 28th, her charges were altered to first-degree murder and unlawful confinement, suggesting a deeper involvement on her part. However, a publication ban initially prevented the media from reporting why this change occurred. It wasn't until December 9th, 2010, that the ban was lifted by order of the Supreme Court. The public then learned that Terri-Lynne had been scheduled for an appearance in the Supreme Court on April 30th, 2010, almost exactly a year after Tora's death. There, she made a plea deal and pleaded guilty to first-degree murder, being sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole for 25 years. She was sent to the Grand Valley Institution for Women in Kitchener, Ontario. The lawyers agreed to change the venue of Michael's trial from Woodstock to London, due to concerns that he could not get a fair trial in the city where Tori lived and was kidnapped. On March 5th, 2012, Michael's trial began for the charges of kidnapping, sexual assault, and first-degree murder of Tori. Terri-Lynne was the main witness, and her testimony during the trial painted a detailed picture of what really happened to Tori on that terrible day of April 8th, 2009. According to her, after waking up that morning, she smoked some marijuana, went to a food bank, bought some groceries, returned home, and then took some OxyContin pills. She went to an appointment at the employment center in the afternoon, and then Michael unexpectedly appeared at her house. After weeks of conversations between Terri-Lynne and Michael about their kidnapping fantasies, he asked her to kidnap a young girl because, for him, the younger they were, the easier it would be to manipulate them. While passing by Oliver Stevens Public School, he wanted her to prove that she wasn't just talking, but was really willing to act. I said, "Do what? You want me to grab someone? You said it would be easy. They're coming out of school now. All you have to do is talk about dogs or candy or something like that," Terri-Lynne testified. Later, when school was letting out, Terri-Lynne said that Michael parked his Honda Civic in the parking lot of the nearby nursing home. She claimed that her plan was to pretend she was looking for a girl to kidnap, but would return empty-handed. However, he was watching her closely, so she decided she would find a child and walk beside her but wouldn't go beyond that. As mentioned earlier, Tori was supposed to return home with her brother, but had to go back to retrieve her bird rings. She was walking alone when Terri-Lynne approached. Terri-Lynne introduced herself but told Tori that she could call her T. She told Tori she had a puppy and asked if she would like to see it. The girl, apparently excited, held Terri-Lynne's hand and agreed to go see the dog. When they approached the car, Terri-Lynne opened the back door, and Tori began to get in, but then realized there was no dog. At that moment, according to the testimony, Tori tried to back away, but Terri-Lynne pushed her into the car. Michael immediately began to drive, while Terri-Lynne held Tori in the back seat. They then headed to Guelph, stopping at several places: a Tim Hortons store, where Terri-Lynne bought a tea, a house in Guelph, where Michael bought Percocet, a gas station, where Michael used an ATM to withdraw money. At each stop, Terri-Lynne was left alone in the car with Tori. The fatal stop was at a Home Depot store, where Terri-Lynne went in to buy garbage bags and a hammer, the tools that would be used in the murder. The store's security cameras showed Terri-Lynne at the self-checkout buying the items, appearing agitated and nervous. After the purchase, they drove to a remote area north of Guelph, where they parked on an isolated farm road. Michael took Tori to a nearby woods, where he sexually abused her while Terri-Lynne waited in the car. Afterward, he called Terri-Lynne, who brought the hammer. Together, they beat Tori to death, with Michael delivering the first blows and Terri-Lynne the final blows, according to her own testimony. After the murder, they wrapped Tori's body in garbage bags and hid it under a pile of rocks. They threw away Tori's clothes and shoes, as well as their own shoes, in different locations as they returned to Woodstock. During the trial, Terri-Lynne surprised everyone by altering part of her testimony. While she had previously said that Michael was the main killer, she now claimed that she had delivered the fatal blows with the hammer. It's not clear why this change in her testimony occurred, but she took responsibility for the final act. After a 10-week trial on May 15, 2012, Michael was found guilty of all charges. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years. Michael immediately appealed, claiming that the jury had received inadequate instructions, but his appeal was quickly rejected. His most recent appeal, in 2016, was also denied. If you liked this video, please leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Don't forget to share your opinions and suggestions for future cases in the comments below. Until the next case.